So these are the 4 stretchers that I have, the 2 that go to the top and 2 that go to the bottom, and these are same length because I was just getting them to the correct width initially. And they've been planed and squared. I've done a video about that in the past. You should check that out over here. Anyway, so these are planed and squared. Now I'm going to do the layout on them and start working on getting them laid out and cut. Alright, so before I do any layout, I'm going to consult the one drawing that I made here. If you remember, we adjusted the well board so it could fit properly between the 2 pieces, and then we measured the length and measured the width, and the width came out at 30 and 5/16. This is right at 30 and a half, but I think it's 30 and 5/16 back there. So anyway, so it came out at 30 and 5/16, and then I added the dado that is going to be on the aprons, which is 5/8, to get to my 31 and 9/16, which is going to be the overall length of the legs, which means that is end of one leg to end of the other. So it's this length here. I have protruding tenons in the bottom and flush tenons in the top because these stretchers over here are this stretcher over here is flush with the outside of the leg, and then the bottom stretchers go out. So what I have is 31 and 9/16, which is the outside of the leg to the outside of the leg, and what I need now is lines to cut the shoulders of this. But first, as you can see, I have 2 long stretchers, 2 short stretchers. So let me get the short stretchers first before I do the rest of the layout. So to do the short stretchers, I know that the overall length of the stretchers is going to be 31 and 9/16. Let me have this open here in front of me. Alright. 31 and 9/16. So what I've done is I've flushed the end of these. So, okay, another thing here before I go any further. I've marked the stretchers, B's, O's, A's, and X's, and I have them marked over here too. Now these denote the bottom on the inside of the legs. So what I am going to do is just take the B's and the O's, which I know are on the top, because these are good for length. I'll put these aside. Take the B's and the O's, which I know are the ones for the tops. They need to be flush with the outside of the leg, and that measurement is 31 and 9/16. So I measure 31 and 9/16. So that's just over 31 and a half. So I'm just going to mark out 31 and a half. And then I'm going, 2 of these are cut and they look pretty good. Marking side here. These guys over. And they're longer now because I took a bit off. And these are my protruding tenons. And now I have to lay out the shoulders of the tenons on these things. And I'll be ready to cut these tenons. So let's do that. So I'm going to measure the thickness of this here with this square, and that's already set. And I'm going to use one of these. I'm going to use the one tenon here marked BB as my storyboard, which means I'm going to come from the side and I'm going to say this is put a little knife nick in here, and I'm going to say this is the end of this tenon, and I'm going to come back here, come to this side, put a knife nick here. That's the shoulder of my other tenon. And then I'm going to measure the distance between these two to make sure that is, I can't quite tell what that is going to be. But this distance is just under, this is just over 24 and an eighth, I guess. So that would be the distance inside. So that plus the two legs sitting together will make my bench top. Anyway, so I have my marks here now, and then I'm going to put the clamp on like I was doing before. And this is just to make sure that none of these moves. And I need my larger square. There it is. My marking knife. And I'm just going to, I'm not going to scribe an entire line across because I may have variations in parallel on all of these, and I don't want my shoulders to vary tenon to tenon. I want them all to be perpendicular to themselves. So I am just going to make a quick nick here, a nick over here, and a nick over there. So just 4 nicks there, and do the same thing over here. Find my nick with my knife in it, and then the one thing I did not do is measure the two distances here, but they seemed half, so I want the protrusions to be identical. So quickly measure that. This is 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch on this side. Just over 3/4 of an inch on this side, so this is close enough. I just eyeballed the two extensions. There was a time in my life when I would never be confident eyeballing this thing. I had a very engineering mindset that it has to be perfect, and the perfection comes from measurement, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes just our eyes can be so accurate. But anyway, so that's that. Put that away. And then one by one, I'm just going to mark the tenons on all 4 sides. So reference face. And over. There it is. So that's how I'm going to mark my tenon. Let me pencil in this line so you can see it. Okay, I'm going to do that to all the 8 sides. What I need next is my marking gauge. This should already be set to my 1/2 inch chisel that I used to cut the mortises. So I'm going to just make sure it is still set. It's a little short for some reason, it's moved, so I'm going to adjust it. And what I'm doing is I'm holding it between the tips and trying to see if it's close or not. It still is. I want to cut my tenons a little fat because some of my mortises were not cut very well, and the inside faces of those mortises got... That's fat enough. It's just a hair over the size. The next thing I need to do is find the center point, and this is exactly the way we did the center point for the mortises. I'm just going to find the center point of this tenon. Eyeball it first. Learn to develop my skills of finding the center by just eyeballing. Fairly off. Try again. This side. Fairly close. And what I'm going to do is register on my face edge when I am laying out these lines. So let's do that. Register against the same edge. And here's what I have. And that's it. So that's my tenon on this side. I'm going to try to cut these tenons next time. I'm going to first lay out all the tenons on all 8 sides, and then once they're all laid out, I'll start chopping into them. So that is the video for next week. Thank you for watching. Find me on Facebook on my page here. There'll be a link, and then also find me on Instagram where I post a lot of behind the scenes photos from what I'm doing. As usual, like and share my video if you thought this was useful, if you thought you have a beginner woodworker that you know that could benefit from learning the way I'm learning and kind of at my stage, at my learning level. That'd be great. But always, if you're not subscribed yet, please subscribe. I have new videos coming out Mondays and Thursdays, and you could keep up with the videos as they come out. So do that, and I will see you in the next video.